I'm now being joined on the program by INEC's National Commissioner on Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Many thanks for coming on tonight, Mr. Okoye. Thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts. Let's begin the conversation by asking you, the commission did say that election of Nasarawa, the by-election, will be a test case for conducting elections going forward for INEC in the pandemic, in the COVID-19 pandemic. But essentially, what did you discover from that exercise of yesterday?
Well, we had certain benchmarks relating to the conduct of the Nasarawa Central State constituency election. We wanted to see whether the voters will comply with the whole issue of social distancing or physical distancing. We wanted to see whether they will comply with the compulsory use of face mask or face covering. We also wanted to see how our ad hoc staff comply with the whole issue of hand sanitizers and using methylated spirit to clean the face of the smart card reader. And it was a learning curve for us, and it's very clear to us that a lot of Nigerians understand the challenges of conducting election under this very unusual period. So we did very well. We had slight challenges with the issue of physical distancing. But in some of the polling units, the presiding officers were very proactive and even drew lines on the floor to demarcate the places where the voters will stand. But in a few of the polling units, people simply ignore the issue of physical distancing. So we have taken that particular lesson on board, and we are going to meet within the next few days to review the conduct of the Nasarawa Central State constituency elections. But on the whole, I think that we provided all the pharmaceutical things we were supposed to provide, and the election went very well.
For some reasons, I'll come back to that election of yesterday and what this means for your plan ahead of the Edo governorship election. It does look like INEC is mostly concerned about conducting the election itself, other than the processes leading to the election. When you're planning for election in this COVID period, you've released guidelines on doing that. But are you worried about how campaigns are being conducted without consideration or adherence to the COVID-19 procedures?
Yes, the commission is concerned. And we had advised the political parties to also draw up their own protocols for conducting campaigns and rallies under this unusual circumstance. And the political parties are also aware that they have an obligation and a responsibility to adhere to the protocols issued by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. They also know that the various state governments have their own quarantine laws, which they ought to comply with. So we are very, very concerned because we do not want this type of disregard to physical and social distancing to be transported to the election day itself. Because if the political parties do not have regard for all the protocols that have been issued by the various health authorities in their campaigns, on election day, they may also want to carry that type of behavior to the polling units. And we are not going to accept that type of behavior. So we have learned valuable lessons from the elections we conducted in Nasarawa yesterday, and we are going to re-strategize on how to enforce the issue of physical distancing. And we are going to do this in conjunction with the various security agencies that will complement the efforts of the Commission during the Edo and Ondo governorship election.
Mr. Okoye, is INEC, the statutory body, saddled with the responsibility of monitoring campaigns?
Yes, we monitor political campaigns. But on the whole, it is the responsibility of political parties to conduct their campaigns in a manner that does not endanger public health and public safety. Now, one of the things we have been asked to monitor, one of the things we look out for, is whether campaigns are conducted in a violent manner. We want to see whether people are allowed to go to the campaign rallies and campaign venues with dangerous weapons. We want to see and know whether people are using slanderous language or base language or language that has the capacity to inflame passion or language that has the capacity to inflame ethnic and religious tension. So we monitor some of these things. And also we see whether they are complying with some of these health protocols. But other than that, when crimes are committed or when electoral offenses are committed at the level of political party rallies and campaigns, is the responsibility of the security agencies to enforce the law. The commission does not have its own police force.
Yeah,
and the commission does not have its own security agencies.
So, Mr. Okoye, apologies to cut in.
To enforce the law.
So fundamentally, you have the prerogative, the statutory power to monitor campaigns at INEC. But in the basics of it, looks like if the political parties are not adhering to the guidelines and the rules of the game, would you allow such political party to go ahead in their campaign?
No, you know, the rules of campaigns and the rules of rallies are both constitutional and statutory. Political parties have the right to exist. They have the right to freedom of association. They have the right to freedom of expression. So to that particular extent, they have the right to meet. Now, they also have the right to campaign, but the law has made provision on the things that they can do at their campaign rallies and the things that they cannot do. So it is our responsibility to monitor some of these campaigns. And if we feel very, very strongly that a political party has fallen off the radar or a political party is doing something that is untoward, we will document such activities and such actions and then forward to the security agencies. It's now left for the security agencies to enforce the law in terms of conducting investigation and also in terms of prosecuting the political parties or the candidate or the aspirant or their supporters before a properly constituted court of law.
Because I remember having the conversation with you, Mr. Okoye, on the guidelines of conducting elections. Elections is a process, not an event. So there are events leading to an election. So campaigns and rallies are part of an election process. So when we had this conversation, you were very strict with your language at the time that if any political party does not fall in line with the procedure, you will come down there. Are you saying that the law does not permit you to, for example, stop a political party campaign when they look so much, for example, that they are putting the lives of citizens or the lives of their supporters at risk with the manner in which they are conducting their campaign?
You have to look at the whole issue within a particular context. Now, for instance, Edo State and Ondo States, they have laws regulating the conduct of individuals and the conduct of groups during this pandemic period. And these laws are enforceable by the various state governments. So if a political party in conducting rallies and conducting campaigns falls foul of the law, it is the responsibility of the state government and is the responsibility of the security agencies to enforce the state law. Now, we also have the different regulations and the different guidelines relating to the conduct of rallies, campaigns, and the conduct of individuals and groups during this particular period. If a political party falls short of those ones, it is not the responsibility of the Independent National Electoral Commission to arrest, investigate, and prosecute. There are agencies and commissions that are statutorily saddled with this particular responsibility. Our responsibility is to document some of these issues, and if we feel very, very strongly that a political party is doing things that has the capacity to jeopardize the political process, we will make a formal report to the security agencies, and it is left for the security agencies to take it from there.
So what has been your, since from what you're telling Nigerians, Mr. Okoye, it does look like you're telling us that your power according to the Constitution and the law is just to monitor. You don't have power to sanction. So far, from the campaigns that we have seen, have the political parties adhered to the guidelines?
From what we have documented so far and from what we are seeing, some of the political parties in their rallies and their campaigns have no regard whatsoever to the issue of physical distancing and the issue of even wearing face masks during their rallies. And some of the campaigns have also been tainted with a language, with base language, with slanderous language, with intemperate language, capable of inflaming passion. And there have also been threats of violence and the use of force in this election. What we intend to do and what we are going forward to do, we want to be inclusive and we want to be consultative. We are going to meet with the candidates themselves. We are going to meet with the political parties. We are going to meet with the campaign councils. We are going to meet with the Interagency Consultative Committee on the Election Security. And we are going to meet with the different religious and traditional institutions to give them the information at our disposal and to tell them the consequences of proceeding in a manner that jeopardizes the peace and security of the state and the challenges of going ahead with an election where the lives of ad hoc staff and where the lives of the voters will be jeopardized. The political parties know what the consequences are, and they know that as a regulatory agency that is saddled with the responsibility of organizing and conducting the elections and superintending elections, that we have the power to make sure that nobody jeopardizes the lives of those we are going to deploy to go and conduct this election.
The commission, I mean, you released a statement last week, Mr. Okoye, and before I go into the details of some of the things that you said, particularly, you said, and I quote here, consequently, you said in the second paragraph that the last line of the second paragraph that the commission will not shirk its responsibility to enforce the rules of the game. Consequently, parties and candidates must on no account underestimate the result of the commission to enforce the rules and regulations and apply appropriate sanctions against those who choose to break them. That means, from that statement, Mr. Okoye, that means INEC has the power to sanction. But for those who you've just said that some of these political parties do not have respect for social distancing. That means they are disobeying the rules and the guidelines guiding this election. Are you going to put down your sanctions on them?
The commission has powers under the law and under the Constitution and under our regulations and our guidelines. And that's why I'm telling you, we are going to, in the next week or two, we are going to meet with the leaders of these political parties. We are going to meet with their campaign councils. We are going to meet with all the critical stakeholders in this electoral process. And we are going to draw the line that they cannot cross. And we are going to make it very clear to them that if they cross a certain line, the commission will come down heavily on them. Now, the challenge here is that, and I've pointed it out, the conduct of end of tenure elections has a very limited and strict constitutional timeline. And the moment you fall off that particular timeline, it creates its own big challenges. And we are saying that, look, under Section 178, subsection 2 of the Constitution, we have limited period within which to conduct this election. And we must conduct the elections and announce a winner on or before the 13th day of October 2020. If we announce a winner on the 14th, or if we conduct election on the 14th of October, we have fallen off the constitutional radar. And whatever we do is null and void. So they must understand this very clearly. Secondly, if something happens and this election is postponed, the Speaker cannot take over because under Section 191 of the Constitution, the Speaker can only take over a power to complete the unexpired residue of the term of office of the last holder of the office. The term of office of the governor of Edo State will expire on the 11th day of November 2020. On the 11th day of November 2020, even if the Speaker has taken over, he must also vacate office because he can only conclude the unexpired residue of the term of office. Now, the second provision is Section 180 of the Constitution, which says that the president can step in and extend the tenure of the incumbent by a period of 6 months if the country is at war, in which the territory of Nigeria is physically attacked. I do not think that Nigeria is at war. And I don't think that any territory of Nigeria has been attacked. So that particular provision does not avail us. The only remaining provision is Section 305 of the Constitution, which says that you can declare a state of emergency under certain conditions, and the president can, through a proclamation, state what is going to happen with the concurrence of the National Assembly. We do not want to get into all this because that will lead Nigeria into a constitutional crisis, and you can never tell. If there's a constitutional crisis in one state, it may boil over to another state, and we don't want to get to that particular curve. So political parties should know all this and know that we also have the power not to proceed with this election if we perceive that violence will take over this election, because the life of a core member who is serving his nation as a presiding officer cannot be covered by any form of insurance, and no form of compensation can make up for the death of even a single individual. So we are not going to risk the lives of young men and women that we are going to deploy just on the basis of the desperation of certain political interests and certain political forces. So they know all this, and we are going to make it very clear to them that we have the power to put our feet down and not go ahead with this election if they continue in the manner they are going.
All right. So you have said it clearly about the resolve of INEC to discontinue the process should violence erupt or goes on. But with the issue of the Oba Palace violence that we saw, the issue of the alleged assassination attempt, the incident at the House of Assembly, the issue of billboards that have been destroyed, has the commission gotten to that point where you think the violence or the kind of incidents that are trailing up to the election is unbearable?
No. We are going to, in the next week or two, we are going to meet with all these interests. As I pointed out, we are going to meet with the candidates, we are going to meet with the political parties, we are going to meet with their campaign councils, we are going to also meet with the traditional and religious institutions, and we are going to lay down and give the parties an opportunity to pull back. If, after giving them opportunity to pull back from what they are doing, they persist in what they are doing, then the commission will meet as a commission and then take a decision on whether we will proceed with the election or whether we are not going to proceed with the election.
Will it be fair to discontinue the process? For example, I think we have about 18 or 19 political parties in this election. If one or two political parties are engaging in violence, would it be fair to discontinue the process because of 2 out of 18 political parties?
No, the violence we are talking about will be the type of violence that puts people on edge, that puts fear in the minds of the people, the type of violence that is cogent and verifiable, that everybody can see and be sure that the peace and security of the state is being threatened. It's not if there's a violence in maybe a particular war that the security agencies have been able to contain such violence that we are going to call off the election. No, it is the type of violence I'm talking about and the type of issues that will lead us not to proceed with the election must be so serious that no regulatory agency or no regulatory commission, what is sought, we move into such a place to go and conduct election when it is completely unsafe to conduct election. We are determined to conduct this election. So some of these things these political parties are doing, thinking that the commission will be scared into moving to go and conduct this election. The commission is not scared. We are going to strategize with the security agencies, and we are going to move in and make sure that the people of Edo State and the people of Ondo State are given the choice to exercise their sovereign right to choose whoever they want to choose. So we are determined to proceed with this election. But so if we encounter the type of violence that is unbearable, the type of violence that will make it completely impossible to conduct anything called election, we will pull out.
Okay, so we'll take a break, but when we come back, I'll be asking you, Mr. Okoye, because you said that you have created a result portal for the Edo election. Is that constitutional? Does it meet the requirement of the Electoral Act? We'll be engaging Mr. Okoye on that plan. And the issue, you remember, of 2019 election, of the issue of the server. There are so many issues on the table. When we return, we conclude our conversation with Mr. Okoye. But we take a break, and up next, the Deputy Governor of Edo State alleges threats to his life. We discuss some of the issues thrown up in the governorship race in Edo State. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. But don't forget to let us know what your views are on the issues we're discussing tonight on the program. Tweet to us on these handles. You see there on your screen. Or if you want to write us some lengthy note, you can write to our email, politicstoday@channelstv.com. So let's get back to the conversation with the INEC National Commissioner in charge of voter education and publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Okoye, for your time tonight. So part of the statement you released on Friday was the fact that INEC has introduced what you call the election result viewing portal. Does the Electoral Act permit INEC to do that?
The moment elections are over at a polling unit, the presiding officer enters the scores of the candidates in Form EC8A. And then the presiding officer signs, the party agent signs, and then the presiding officer takes that particular document together with the party agents and the observers and heads to the collation center. So the results as the procedure and process as prescribed under the Electoral Act is manual. Now, what the Commission is doing is that we do not want to be caught unawares. We don't want a situation where the Electoral Act or the Constitution will be amended or altered tomorrow, and then we'll be caught napping in terms of the fact that we didn't prepare. What we have done is simply to upload from EC8A into a dedicated portal for the public to see what transpired at the polling unit in relation to the results. And this is just to guarantee a sense of transparency and also to give people a best eye view of what happens at the polling unit. So we are looking for ways and means of guaranteeing transparency and also guaranteeing the fact that the people should participate in what goes on at the polling units. We didn't transmit any results. We only simply uploaded the result for public viewing and for research purposes and for purposes of piloting some of the things we want to deploy in the election and also in subsequent elections. So we comply with the law by transmitting the results manually, but we also have the capacity and the wherewithal to pilot certain things and also to test run certain things that we intend to deploy in future elections.
So where is this portal? Is this portal on the INEC website?
I'm not too ICT savvy. All I know is that we created the portal and presiding officers uploaded from EC8A into that particular portal, and we released the URL through which any person who is interested can view these results publicly. So we did everything transparently, and as 3 hours to the end of pool, over 700 individuals had already logged in, and we are viewing what we were doing. And it was really exciting and very innovative and creative.
So, but you don't know the details yet, so that, for example, I can check it. Is it on your website, or where exactly is it?
No, you can. We released all the details through which you can log in publicly, and over 700 persons logged in as 3 hours before the close of pool. So if you log in using the steps we enunciated in that particular release, you will just simply get into the result portal and see what happened yesterday.
But can that portal be a legal instrument? Let me read to you the Electoral Act as amended, Section 71, which talked about the posting of result. The Electoral Act states, and I quote now, the Commission shall cause to be posted on its notice board and website a notice showing the candidates at the election and their scores and the person declared as elected or returned at the election. But transmitting it on that portal, because the Electoral Act, that's why I was asking, is it on your website? Because the Electoral Act recognizes your website, and can it be used as a legal instrument? The Form EC8 is a legal instrument.
Look, we did not post the declaration and the results of the election. The commission, we did not it is the returning officer for the election that does the final collation and makes a declaration and returns somebody as having been properly elected. It is that one that is posted on the INEC website, and that one is the one that is legal. What we normally do is that we post what we call the people's resources at the polling unit. And every presiding officer is under an obligation to post from EC60E at the polling unit. So that is what we uploaded. What we uploaded are the scores of the candidates and not the results as declared by the presiding officer. It is that result as declared by the presiding officer that is supposed to be on our website and is supposed to be the legal instrument. We only uploaded results for public viewing, for people to see, the scores of candidates, for people to see what went on at the polling units. And I think that the commission should be commended for this particular innovation, which has guaranteed some level of transparency and some level of participation of the people in what goes on at the polling units.
So let's quickly wrap up our conversation, and I have two issues to raise before we conclude. There are concerns about security, and allegations are that security are taking sides already in the process leading to the election. I remember vividly, after the Kogi and Bayelsa election, INEC came forward to say security was a vulnerable leg of that election. Have you devised a means by which to curtail this vulnerable point that the INEC chairman raised, that security, or some of the security agencies were the problem in Kogi and Bayelsa states?
We reviewed the elections in Kogi and we reviewed the elections in Bayelsa, and we've had dialogue with the various security agencies under the auspices of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. And we have drawn up a revised code of conduct for the conduct of security personnel deployed for election duty. And we have been meeting, we've been reviewing the situation. We've received the reports from the Commissioner of Police Edo State and the Commissioner of Police Ondo State. And in the coming days, we are still going to convene a meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security to review the security situation in both states and then take proactive measures to make sure that we degrade to the barest minimum acts of violence and acts capable of threatening the smooth conduct of the elections. So we are looking at the situation, and we are not glossing over anything. We are looking at everything holistically, and we are going to take a very concrete and formidable position that will enable us to move into Edo State and conduct elections and let the will of the people prevail.
So let's finalize this conversation on this note. How much will the Edo State governorship election cost INEC?
Honestly, if I tell you that I can off-head give you that particular figure, I don't think I will be fair. If you want that particular figure, I need to get back to the finance department and then try to find out from maybe National Commission in charge of planning and monitoring and the National Commission in charge of electoral operations to get the figure. I don't have the figure off-head, but the figure is within the range with which we conduct governorship elections, but I don't have the figure off-head.
What range is that? Can you tell us at what range?
Honestly, I cannot tell you off-head. But I can find out. I promise I can find out if you want the figure. It's in the public domain, and there's nothing to hide. I can find out, and then maybe if we have a subsequent program, I can give you the figure and give the Nigerian people the figure.
So briefly, if you can also tell us, has the COVID-19 situation jacked up the cost of conducting election, especially in Edo State?
My answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we now have to provide face masks for our ad hoc staff. We now have to provide hand sanitizers. We have to provide methylated spirit. And we have to observe social distancing in terms of the number of buses we hire and other things we do. No, in the sense that there are some certain things that we can no longer do physically. Some of our meetings are now done virtually, in which case we are saving the cost of air transportation and so on and so forth, and the cost of hotel bills. So some of the costs that we are saving from air transportation and from some other things are pulled into the issue of providing pharmaceutical interventions in this particular election. But I want to say that the COVID-19 has created challenges for us and jacked up just a little bit the cost of conducting elections.